all sound a little different, but they're all the same damn thing. Those 6-string dreams. Some are just getting started, some are almost done. For some it's all about the money, for some it's just the fun. Some are going through the motions, some still believe in those 6-string dreams. Everybody knows it just takes one to get you higher than a man should ever be. It's just 3 chords, but the truth is 4 out of 5 won't survive. Oh, 6-string dreams. Make it to the corner, playing in a cover band. A few will make $1 million, but most just enough to eat on those 6-string dreams. Those 6-string dreams. We're all living those 6-string dreams.
Well, would you believe it? Again, here we are, Barry Funkhauser, host of the Barry Funkhauser Show on all the podcast platforms and some radio stations that you happen to be tuned into. Joe's here. Hey, Joe.
Seriously? You're the host of the Barry Funkhauser Show? Barry Funkhauser is the host of his own show? I had no idea. That sounds crazy.
Yeah, I'm just reading the lines that are given to me here, and that's what happened.
and who is our producer giving you the lines? Bard, of course.
Oh, Bard.
No, Bard, the AI assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, let's not talk about your boring life. Let's talk about someone else's exciting life today, Barry.
Well, today we're going to the land of Americana, American roots music, and I think we're headed to Nashville today, Joe, to talk to a songwriter who has a lot going on. His name is Patrick Davis. Welcome to the program, Patrick.
Hey guys, what's going on? Glad to be here.
There's the accent. I heard it. I didn't hear it at the beginning, but there it is.
Yeah, there's certain phrases that comes out pretty strong, I'm sure.
Wait, you're out in Nashville right now?
I am. I'm at home right now. I actually am flying out to Hillsburg tomorrow to do a little work, so I'll be in California tomorrow. Yeah, I'm in Nashville at the moment, just hanging out in the in the homestead. So, great talking to you guys.
What neighborhood? You don't have to give.
I live in Sylvan Park, Cherokee Hills. So I live right.
Nice neighborhood. Good. Running and hiking up there.
It is. I never have to leave. I've lived here for 20 plus years now, and I'm not a big fan of the interstate. So I try my best to stay downtown all the time and never really. It's about 3 minutes to get to Music Row. So it's pretty easy. So.
Oh man. So you got Music Row and all the food and all the hiking and all the running all right there. Oh,
and
man.
all of the tourists as well, which is also depressing. But that part,
sure. Sometimes they're fun. I live in Sherman Oaks. I'm on.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
I get all of the tourists coming over in the summer too. And you know what? For the most part, it's okay. I get it because I like to be a tourist in other cities too. So.
Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to have a couple of bars here in town, and those and we like the tourists for those places. We sure do.
Yeah, because it's hard. Like some of those you got to understand when you live in a community that people want to visit. A lot of those restaurants and local spots that you like to go to, they need those tourist dollars to come in and make sure that they can stay open during the lean months. Because I don't think that there's a whole lot of people cruising out to Nashville in like January.
You'd be surprised. It's become a little bit like Vegas. I mean, those of us that live here definitely have a love-hate relationship with it. We have a bar called Never Never and another bar called Reunion that are very successful here, and we love the fact that they're always busy. But it used to be a little more where there were seasons where you would have maybe, you'd have your summer months would be really packed, and then a few other times of the year, maybe spring break or something. But now it is almost year round. So it's definitely the city wasn't necessarily built for the infrastructure. It wasn't built for how many people we've had. The influx of folks has been a little bit staggering for us. So I'm like the old man in the front yard being like, slow down, but I do Nashville is it's still Music City, and for those of us that are lucky enough to make a living performing or writing or being in the business, it is the place we kind of have to be. So we still love it, in that respect.
So tell Barry and I, why are you leaving such an awesome place to live to come out to California for a few weeks?
Well, I started an event called Songwriters in Paradise about a decade ago. We songwriters and performers don't actually get to see each other all that often, even if some of our best friends we may only get to hang out with 3 or 4 times a year because our schedules are just so wacky. And I decided I had gotten an offer to perform down in the Bahamas. And I said, in lieu of me just coming with myself or with a band, how about I bring some of my friends down? And we started this event called Songwriters in Paradise, which was a weekend of shows with, I think it was 6 or 8 of us back then. And from that initial event, I have now started there's 4 of them around the world. We do them in Napa. I think I'm wearing a hat right now. I think about it. But in Hillsburg, which is coming up in July. We do it in Cabo, and we do it down in the Bahamas. They got hit by a hurricane a couple years ago, so we've taken a few years off, but hopefully next year we'll be back down in the Bahamas. And it's just an extraordinary experience. I'm not going to say it's the most exclusive music festival in the world, but it's definitely up there. I only allow 150 tickets a night. So it's a very, very
really?
Intimate. Yeah.
150, that's it?
Yeah,
Dang.
we try to. Yeah, that's right. Try to keep it as exclusive and intimate. And I always use the example of if you get backstage or if you get a meet and greet VIP experience at a big concert, more than likely they're going to walk you backstage about 10 minutes prior to the meet and greet. They're going to put you in line. They're going to usher you through. You're going to meet whoever the person is, take a picture, say I'm a big fan, and they're going to usher you back out to the front of the house. And that's kind of what people expect. We don't actually really enjoy that because it is a cattle call. It's very quick. So what I wanted to do was create something that was kind of the polar opposite of that, where you actually get kind of like a backstage access, a backstage pass for the entire event. There's 12 or 15 of my incredibly talented, artists and songwriter friends, and we hang out at every event, and we do it in Napa and in Hillsburg, where the wine is incredible, the food's incredible, the weather's incredible, and the music is second to none. So Songwriters in Paradise. So check it out. It's not so bad.
so much fun.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So,
not so bad.
But you're in Nashville, man. Are you from there, Nashville, or?
Well, I was born in Murfreesboro. That's about 30 minutes from here. My dad had moved up here to be a guitar player back in the late 70s, early 80s, and he ended up after I was here we were here for 6 months of my life, and we moved back to South Carolina. So I don't really remember being here. I call South Carolina home, but if you look it up on Wikipedia or whatever, it'll say I'm from Murfreesboro. But South Carolina is definitely where I that's home for me. But I moved here right after college. I went to the University of South Carolina, and I graduated in a shade under 6 years with a history degree. So pretty impressive. And then I moved here. And I've been here for now, I think about 21 or 22 years. So, it's I guess I have dual citizenship, if you will.
So, okay. So you guys travel around, you live in Nashville, you're traveling out. I understand how you decided on the Bahamas resort for SIP.
Yep.
But how did you land on wine country and all these other destinations to do it throughout the year? Like, do you just picked a place that you wanted to go to
No, it's always I always say that it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And when we play, I've been fortunate enough to go out and play all over the place, and you meet a lot of people. And I was at an event out in wine country, and I ran into, we went to lunch with some guys, and one of them happened to be, they brought their wine, which everybody in wine country brings their wine. They're like, hey, it's like their business card, here it is. But he goes, hey, I brought you some wine. And he brought it, and it was Silver Oak. And I was like, wait a second. And I was like, you own Silver Oak? And it was David Duncan who owned Silver Oak. His family's had Silver Oak forever. And so we just hit it off, and I just kind of left it at that. But then we started talking a little more, and he's like, well, I like to write songs too. I love music. And I was like, oh, wow. And so he happened to be coming to Nashville like a week later. This is probably a decade or more ago. And we just stayed in touch. And then one thing led to another. He would follow me on social media, and he saw that I was doing this Songwriters in Paradise thing where I'd done it in Cabo, and I was doing it in the Bahamas. And he said, we need to do this in Napa. And so it really was everything with that is a direct relationship. It's not, I don't pick up the phone book and start calling people and saying, hey, could we come use your incredible winery? I really want it to be like a family thing. I want it to be a situation where everyone has a real relationship with with not just the individuals where we're lucky enough to go to the wineries, but the entire community. And that's essentially what it was. So it's every one of them, from the songwriters to the venues, to the destinations, I have to have an actual relationship with them, or I won't do it. I can't just pick a place just because I think it would be, I get asked about it a lot, and I kind of have to be very particular with where I end up. So.
Well, yeah, it sounds like it was just all serendipitous,
Yeah.
You made friends, and he's like, oh, well, yeah, why don't you come on down?
Yeah, and each one of them. Each one of them worked that way. I was introduced to some folks in Cabo when I was in Cabo, so that's how the Cabo relationship worked. After being in Napa, I was introduced to some folks that were from Hillsburg. And they take a while. It might take 3 or 4 years of trips out and just meeting everybody. It's not just an overnight thing, and I think that's part of what makes it special. And I think that's why the local communities kind of get behind it in a different way, because they feel like, I always say that these places are already paradises. They don't need us to make them cool or make them awesome. So I have to make sure that we're not poaching, that we're not, right. They feel like we're there for the right reasons.
No, see, you're something different, Patrick. And I'll explain why. Is like no traditional singer-songwriter person surrounded by a slew of people moving to Nashville to try to become singer-songwriters. You're like from sort of that part of town. You know what's going on. Did you also say that like you own bars? Did I catch that you also are an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of get I get bored easily, I guess. I'm fortunate enough, writing songs is a good gig if you can get it, and I've had some luck with that, and I'm fortunate enough to play. I can tour down in the Southeast, in 3 or 4 states and do pretty well. So I've been fortunate enough to have the ability to throw my hat in some different arenas. So I have some friends here in town that are I guess, restaurateurs or bar folks, and so we kind of pulled some stuff together, and we own a couple bars here in Nashville that are that I'm very proud of. Let's get it straight though. Like I literally am one of those people that show up and drink at the bar and also can say, hey, I'm one of the owners. That's how that works. So I'm not doing any day-to-day shit, but
but the thing is, this isn't normal, Patrick. This is an abnormal thing. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
You have you don't have to do this.
Yeah. It's I've been fortunate. Ben Vaughn, that is the head of Warner Chappell Publishing here. I've written for Warner Chappell with Ben for almost 20 years, and Ben always will be at dinner or something, and he'll just the two of us hanging out, and he'll say, you're just not normal. No one else has that side of the brain, because usually with when it comes to music, you have, I don't remember what left side, right side, whatever side it is that is for the music, and the other side, that kind of is more for business stuff. Usually doesn't usually get activated as often. So and I don't know why it is for me. I just really enjoy. I love the creative process, and the way I look at all these things is it is still creative. SIP is a creative thing. Am I good at keeping up with the details and stuff? I mean, I think my manager and maybe my publicist and stuff would probably say sometimes I am. But I do love building things and making something out of nothing. And I have a very, I'm like a Liam Neeson in Taken. It's like I do have a very, specialized set of skills for this type of thing. And I do recognize from all of my friends who have trouble sometimes just getting out of bed that I do have, I do have a different skill set for that stuff. And it's not, it doesn't make it, sometimes I wish I didn't have it because it keeps me really busy. And sometimes I wish I could just sit around and work on, guitar solos for all day, but I have a lot of other things going on. So.
Oh, I am the same way, man. Like I have like 100 things going through my brain at once, and I'm like trying to categorize, okay, which one do I do first? And it's like, sometimes I just want to sit down, but it's just my brain won't let me. But the one thing that I want to keep bringing up is the fact that you have all of these things, and it is a compliment to say that you're not like other people.
Thanks.
And it is a compliment to say that you're doing some great community building. And that is the one thing that I think is lacking the last, with the advent of the internet. And you brought something up, and I want you to repeat it. You said it before we started recording.
Well, the connect, I always say that in this world that we live in now, we're more connected than ever, but we're also we're less connected than we've ever been. And I think that everybody has this false sense that we are connected because you're on TikTok or you're on Facebook and you got likes, and that's not, or Instagram. That's not real. It's yes, it's real, but it's not an actual one-on-one, physical, a conversation with someone face to face. That's just not, and that's really what I crave. And I grew up in a small town. Like I was born in Murfreesboro, but I grew up in a place called Camden, South Carolina. Population probably at the time I was there 3,000 people, maybe it's 5,000 now. But it's I went to kindergarten with the same people that I graduated from high school with, and because of that, I just had this very different idea of what real connection means. And I think Nashville, the music industry is a horrible, horrible place, and there's a bad side as well. But it's really tough because it is a business, and so what happens there is you get kind of you one day you're on top of the mountain, the next day you're swimming at the bottom of the ocean, and that's because of that we lose the connection a lot of times. And what I want real connections with people. So I have a tendency I'm very, very loyal. And I also have a tendency to not really care about whether or not, if I think you're wonderfully talented and incredibly gifted at what you do, I give two shits about your TikTok or Instagram followers. That's irrelevant to me because I feel like those things aren't actually, I know it matters. Don't get me wrong. They're not real in the same way that if you can walk on stage, I always say, I get asked all the time for Songwriters in Paradise folks will email me and say, hey, I have so-and-so that would like to be on your events. And I always am like, well, no, it's just my friends. That's essentially who it is that gets to come to this. But those people might not be the most famous people in the world. They may not even be remotely famous, but I know that when they walk on that stage, they're going to make the audience fall in love with them and their songs and their performance and their talent. And that's really what matters to me, because, it's like in the studios in Nashville, there's a saying where they'll say, you know what there was before there was Pro Tools? And you'll go, what? And you go, pros. And that's the way that it used to work. And today it's like, I can sit in front of I'm guilty of it. If I'm sitting down and trying to show somebody a song, doing a version of a take of a song on Instagram or something, well, I could do it 100 times and get it right. And it doesn't mean if you walk me on stage in front of 10 people or 10,000 people, I'm going to do it that well. And that's really the key for me, being a performer, is that actually being able to pull it off in front of an audience. And a lot of the things that we're seeing now aren't reality. And I feel like that's what I want: connection. And I want my friends, all the people that are a part of the SIP family, I tour with a big band called Patrick Davis and his Midnight Choir. There's 11 or 12 folks. It's like Springsteen and Lyle Lovett and Van Morrison had a baby. And that's just kind of what I do, and musical baby. But those people are my family, and in the SIP people, I feel that way about them as well. And I hope that the attendees that come to my shows, that come to the Songwriters of Paradise stuff, that listen to my music, feel like, oh shit, this is something different. It doesn't mean I don't give two shits about it being the most successful thing in the world, because I never will be that person. I have always been on a niche artist, on the fringes, and that's okay, because not everybody, McDonald's sells a lot of hamburgers. I don't want to be McDonald's, that's exactly who I am. So
right, and I love the fact that you keep it exclusive and intimate, so you can give people that experience. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I know as a promoter, I am here to be the cheerleader of the fans who are coming. Like everybody, like the rock star is fine. They get adulation all the time. Yeah. But what I like to do is make it like you were saying, make backstage, make it super, super awesome for the fans. Yeah. Turn the fans into the rock stars for a few hours, make them feel really special. That kind of connection you can only get with live music in person.
It's the one thing that I think the pandemic, there were some good things and terrible things that happened there, but one of the positives was, at least for a short time, I think it made everyone recognize how important going to see music was, because the first thing that happened, for 2 years after the pandemic was over, it was just every band you'd ever heard of was on tour nonstop, and it was because people were craving it so badly. And I think what Dave Grohl said, what's the best part of 80,000 people singing back to him? He said it was 80,000 people singing the words for 80,000 different reasons, but you're still together, and you feel that connection. You feel like you're a part of something, and you can't get that from watching TikTok videos. You can't get that from YouTube. You can't get that from anything. The only thing you can get that from is from an actual live performance. And I think that's the one thing that gives me hope for music for the long haul, is that there will always have to be people that are as good as Tedeschi Trucks. There will always have to be people that are as good as Chris Stapleton. There will always have to be those people that are so talented that you need that, because you want to see that real connection. And it doesn't mean that there's not people out there that are touring and doing a live thing that are actually just playing the tracks. There's plenty of that, especially in country music. But people can tell the difference between somebody that's playing for tracks and somebody that's, I believe the masses they know something's different. So there's always going to be a place for real music to exist. And it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but it's always going to be there.
Yeah, and that brings us to a point, man. We got to get into the time machine, because you say, Patrick, that you are a late bloomer, but man, you got like 12 things in the cooking. So what came first? It must have been songwriting, right? What came first? Like,
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was about 15 or 16. My dad is a guitar player. I always say the same thing. My dad, this is a true story. He's kind of like the Eric Clapton of like 3 or 4 counties down in South Carolina. And so I kind of grew up around music, but I played sports growing up. So it didn't really take hold for me until I was in high school. And I heard Led Zeppelin. I heard a song called Tangerine, and I just thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. And I wanted to learn how to play it on guitar. And that's kind of how that started. And so I liked playing live. I loved playing live. I got to college and was playing in bars and restaurants, making really good money for a 20-year-old. And but they were all cover songs in the corner. of a smoky establishment back then. And I kind of realized at some point that in order for me to be successful, I needed to really focus on my own music. I had being from Columbia, South Carolina, or around Columbia, South Carolina in college. The Hootie and the Blowfish guys were there, it wasn't really my music. It wasn't really what I grew up listening to or anything, but I had to respect those guys immensely because they were the biggest thing in the world from South Carolina. And also they were at the top of the mountaintop, So they just told me, they were like, hey, Patrick, you're great, but if you want to make a living at this, you've really got to start writing your own music and performing it. And that was kind of a really big moment. And I think we all have those moments. Somebody tells you something. It could be something small as, you're great, or it could be something like that. And I moved to Nashville because I in the days of liner notes, I realized that pretty much everyone that made music, or a large percentage of them, were either in Nashville or LA. And I thought Nashville was much better for me. And so I moved to Nashville and started writing songs. And I didn't really know if I was going to just write songs or just perform. And at first I kind of did both of those, but then I started making money writing songs. And, money has a funny way of taking you where it wants to. And so I wasn't really enamored with the idea of just writing songs, but before I knew it, that was what I was doing. So the reason I always say a late bloomer is because I think it just took me a long time to figure out how to not just be a songwriter, because I had to step away from a revenue source and kind of say, all right, hold on a second. This isn't really making me happy. Even if I get songs recorded by artists, I don't really care. It's not care is the wrong word, but it wasn't filling my cup. And so it wasn't until about 5-6 years ago, SIP was a big part of that. But I was able to step away from everything and kind of recalibrate who I wanted Patrick Davis to be. And I say late bloomer because I didn't move to Nashville until I was about 25 or 26. So it took me a while to do that. Then it took me about 10 or 12 years of writing songs for other people to kind of figure out, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do what I actually want to do. And so that's, I kind of feel like for me, I want to be Willie Nelson. I want to be 90 years old out there on a tour bus, still getting out there and playing. And so, I still have a long ways to go, I guess.
It's a good thing you're a young man, then.
Yeah, well, I'm trying.
Hey, you're younger than me, so you're a young
well,
man.
That's all right. Hey, it's what is it? Mark Twain is, age is mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. So.
Exactly. See, because I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to get back into a career that I love because, I've been trying a few things, but one of the things that I was missing out on and COVID made me refocus was the fact that I like talking to people. I like hearing the stories that you got to tell about your career and where you're going and how you're building community. And so it's nice to be coming back. And I think, like you mentioned, COVID just refocused everybody. So
congratulations. That's good. That's good. It's I say there's like this thing where we all there's like a happiness quota, and you got to figure out how to make that work for you. And the entertainment business has this really there's a strange thing about the entertainment world. They will tell you what success is. They will, they don't give a shit what your version of success is. They will tell you what is success. They'll be like, for your world, they'll be like, well, if you're not Howard Stern, you're not successful. Or if I'm not, Jason Aldean or whoever, I'm not. Right. I'm like, well, I don't even like that. What are you talking about? That's not who I want to be. And that's for you. I don't know. Maybe you are a huge Stern fan. He's awesome. But I'm just saying, like, that's what they'll tell you it is. But really, what did you start out dreaming would be success? That's where you should be aiming for. Now you can always, go past the moon, but I'm just telling you that's what. And I think that these places have an ability to kind of alter the way you're thinking, and you really have to get back to the brass, the brass nuts of the whole thing, and be like, no, wait a second. Success for me is this, and why am I chasing something that actually, if I even achieve it, is not actually going to make me happy? So exactly.
See, I'm trying to find my own songwriters in paradise for myself. You've already found it. It's great.
Yeah. Rip. Like a radio in paradise. I don't know. Like
radio in paradise. Rip. I got it. Done. Trademarked. Oh, I already stole it for me. Sorry.
Okay.
Done.
Well, Patrick, aside from all this other stuff, we're going to talk more about Songwriters in Paradise, but you've got these 2 singles coming out. The first one is 6 String Dreams, which we did the podcast with. And then you've got another one coming up called Beautiful Day for Flying.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
here's a question I have for you, because we've had a lot of bands on the program.
Okay.
Groups and musicians and people that are creative. And there's been some debate on whether it's an album world still or a single world. Now, I think I know what you're going to say, but my question is it like, what do you think the future holds? Because you are a time traveler. You may be a late bloomer, but you're in this now and you're kind of ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think nowadays, as a performer, you also have to be an entertainer and an all-encompassing person and have all of these bells and whistles.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think, if you were to have advice for bands or musicians, what do you think about albums versus singles?
Well,
I'm a little more old school in the idea that an album still is the best way to really convey the message that you want the world. Singles can kind of go, like let's say Six String Dreams. I released that a few weeks ago. Six String Dreams is is a little more. It's a big band sound. It has the horns in it. It has the background singers. It's a guitar heavy thing because it's about the story of all of us dreamers, the Six String Dreamers. Like the kind of what that entails, like what that looks like for all of us. From the guys playing at Madison Square Garden to the guys playing on Broadway at down in Nashville. And so that's a bigger sound. Beautiful Day for Flying is a gorgeous track that's kind of steeped in classic kind of standard songwriting. Still sounds like me, but it sounds like it could be it sounds like something that it could have been a I don't know, an Elvis song. It's just beautiful. It's got strings and things in it. So because of that, singles have the ability, you can get lost as to, well, who are you? Because it kind of goes all over the place. So I think an album is still the thing that is the one piece, like the complete painting of what you're trying to, you can still have different shades all over it, but you can still tell that it's Patrick Davis. I think that's very important. I think that no one should just focus on the singles, but with that album, with my take on the album being important, being said, in today's world with Spotify and Apple, Pandora, YouTube, all the places, they want content. All they care about is content. If you think they care about us, you're crazy. They want content. And if we don't give it to them, someone else will give it to them. Yep. And so you have to play ball in that arena because that's the arena that we've been given right now. If you're in the Coliseum and a lion comes out, we got to fight a lion. If it's a giant elephant, got to fight an elephant. Whatever it is, we are in a Coliseum right now where all this shit is being thrown at us and we have to do it. So I think the singles are very important because for any of you new artists or up and coming, the minute you release your album to those streaming services, they consider that project dead. They'll give you a couple weeks, but it's dead. Those songs can't be put on playlists because they want you to be sending basically little advertising pieces for 6 months or a year or whatever it is, telling everybody, hey, here's one single. Don't forget that, on February 15th, the whole album comes out. They want that. They need that. And honestly, you need it and we need it because in this world where content is king, you got to kind of figure out what works for you, like with content. Like I'm not a big fan of just constantly selling myself. So like I've kind of had to figure out like some things that are, well, hey, I could post about shows. I could post about this. I do, guitar lessons or something. I'm not a great guitar player, but I can at least show you how to play the basics of things. I enjoy doing those things, but I'm not going to be the guy that's making, the latest TikTok dance craze videos, but maybe that works for you, but one reason I think the singles are really helpful is because, well, that gives you something to talk about for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, because you can talk about it for a couple weeks beforehand. You get a month afterwards to talk about it. And you just kind of got to stagger your releases like that to where because if, like I said, the minute, that you release that album, it's pretty much dead to spot. It's an old track. Now you got to start working on the new stuff. So
out of there and it's gone now. What's next? What's
next? They want the next thing. Yeah. So I think that the singles are very, very important. I also think that in today's world, we all know the focus tracks. Remember, like, it doesn't matter if it was U2 back in the day or it was, I don't know, it's like Jay-Z. It doesn't matter who it is. Like there was going to be 2 or 3 songs that were going to be the songs that they knew the ones that should transcend the album. And that's what you need to do. That's what you can utilize when you have the ability to release singles. You can say, okay, this song is going to move the needle. For me personally, I want people to listen to my music and not just think that it's fucking great. I want them to think that it's also like that this is an amazing, well-written song. Because the thing for me is I come from an old school songwriter mentality where, the song should always win. It should sound just as good on an acoustic guitar as it does with an incredible track. It can always live by itself. And so I want people to recognize that. I want them to go like, oh, wow, this guy's writing songs like, in the same vein as John Hyatt or Guy Clark or John Prine or Lyle Lovett. I want people to recognize that. And so for me, I want to showcase the songs that are gonna hit on that. And so like you might, whoever's out there might say, I want people to know I can sing like Mariah Carey. Well, okay, well, make sure that those are the songs you're releasing, So I think the singles are very important, not just for the content, but also because they're going to help you tell the story. But at the same time, the album needs to be the novel. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Patrick Davis, here's my big question. Okay. One of two big questions. Okay.
All right.
You're making a Patrick Davis cake. And this cake only has two ingredients. One of the ingredients is performance.
Okay.
And the other ingredient is production. So one of them is behind the scenes and one of them is in front of the people. Now, what part is what? How much cake? What does the cake consist of? What part is what for you?
You mean performance, like live performance?
Yeah. What do you like better? Do you like performing in public or do you like producing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I produce my own albums, and I was fortunate enough I get asked to produce some things from time to time. I've worked with a number of pretty great folks over the years, but for me personally, it's performing, because performing is, it's an instant connection. I can work on a song for, like this out. The album's called Carolina When I Die. When the new album comes out, there will be songs, that I've been working on for, I recorded them a year and a half ago, and I've been, piecing them together so it just is a long process. It's not as some of the songs were written 4 or 5 years ago, and I finally got around to doing them after COVID and all this stuff, so you're waiting a long time to see how people react to what the art you've created. While when you're on stage, it is an instantaneous response. If you suck, you're gonna know it pretty quick. But if you're great, I love. I'm a bit of a storyteller, I guess. When it comes to my songs and also on stage, it's kind of one of my it's in my bag of tricks, I guess. I enjoy, making people laugh, or, I enjoy singing a song and seeing the reaction, or having the people sing it back to you. You also, adulation and all that is wonderful as well. I think everybody knows, when you hear somebody clap for you, it's such a crazy feeling, like what? But it's also, I enjoy just, I created something and I get to see the instant response. So for me, there's nothing like performing. There's nothing like, in the right venue. But that's the other thing you got to remember. Like, if you're performing in the corner of a Chuck E. Cheese, well, that's going to suck. It's not going to matter what you sing. But if you're performing in a theater or in a 2,000 seat, you're playing at the Ryman and everybody's sitting there and you can hear a pin drop. Well, there's kind of nothing better than that.
That's a good lead into Joe's question about venues.
Okay.
Yeah, because I always want to know. I love concert venues for like the architecture, the ambiance, all of it. If you could choose any concert venue in the world to play at, where would you play?
I think it's almost impossible. It would be one of the old theaters. That's the and I say one of the old because in America, old is the Beacon or or the Ryman. But
like the Grand Ole Opry near you and stuff.
Well, the Grand Ole Opry is the Ryman is the original Grand Ole Opry. That's the Ryman. The Ryman Auditorium is everyone that plays there, whether you're on the stage or whether in the audience, you feel like you could reach out and touch each other. And that's what happens in a lot of the old, like the reason I was saying like the old theaters, I'm talking about those old performance halls in in Italy, the ones that, circular type of situations where they, everybody's right on top of you. And it just sounds so incredible because they had to make it, they had to make all those old ones sound incredible because they didn't have amplification like they do now. So the Ryman, you can walk on stage at the front of the Ryman. There's 2,500 people there. You don't even have to be, if everyone's quiet, you don't have to be.
You don't even need a mic.
You can just sing and play, and everyone can hear because of the way it's set up. So
the
those
acoustics are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's essentially, getting back to, that's where I like to play. I like to play in the theaters like that. But getting back to Songwriters in Paradise, one of the reasons why I keep it at 150 people a night, whether it's Cabo, whether it's Napa, whether it's Hillsburg or Bahamas, is because that allows for that intimate atmosphere where you feel like you're a part of something, which is very hard to do when you get over 200 people. That's why those venues I just mentioned, the Beacon, there's a lot of old venues like that in America, but the Ryman being the one that I think is probably the most special in America. That's what makes those so extraordinary, is because they're actually 2,000-3,000 seat rooms that still feel like you're only playing for 150, 200 people. And that is almost impossible to do. And so for me personally, it's always, I have a thing where young artists out there, just remember this, like, for me personally, this is how I feel about it. I would rather play for 100 people that paid $100 a ticket to see me play than 1,000 people that paid $10 a ticket, because those 1,000 people don't give two shits about you. There's about 30 of them that are going to pay attention, and the rest of them are there to drink beer and hit on women. If you have people that pay $100 a ticket and it's only 100 people, well, guess what? Probably 99% of those people are there for the music. They're there for the right reasons. So always think about where you're doing your show. It's not enough to just do a show. You have to think about where you're going to be, who's going to be in that audience, what your ticket price is. And that venue is a massive part of that.
Yes. Well, he didn't say,
yes.
He didn't say Red Rocks, Joe. That's why I was thrown off.
Oh no, I know, but no, but
Red Rocks is an absolutely extraordinary, and there are places like that, the Gorge up in around in Washington, like they are just amazing. There's a place up around Niagara Falls. I can't remember. It's an outdoor place, Waterton or something. It's an amazing spot. These beautiful, beautiful spots that are. It's hard to recreate those places, but just for the sound quality and the intimate, that feeling where you feel like those people are right there, where you could, honestly, at the Ryman, even though they're probably 100, 200 feet away from you in the balcony, you still feel like they're right in front, you can see them, you see their expressions. And that's a crazy feeling.
So what you're saying is we're not going to see you playing like the Rose Bowl where you got fans a mile away from you listening to your music.
Well, if I play the Rose Bowl, there will not be enough people there for me to do the Rose Bowl. But no, I think if you get to that point, that's extraordinary. There's that's a rarefied air, and you have to be the masses. You got to be Taylor Swift. You got to be on country radio. You got to do all these things. That's never going to be me. And that's okay. And that's never here. Back to that what is success for you? That was never. Exactly. It never was, unless of course Springsteen and stuff like that. But that's still different thing. It's for success for me has always been the venues where Lyle Lovett played. Going to see Van Morrison like that. Those are those places. That's Mountain View up in that's rooms that's the Greek. It's the Greek. It's like places like that are not going to be if I ever get to a place where I'm playing 7,000-8,000 seat arenas, we need to check something out, because that doesn't make any sense.
And didn't like Lyle Lovett marry somebody super attractive?
Yeah, back in the day he married
Paulina Poroskova.
No, I don't.
Oh, wasn't Paulina Poroskova?
She sounds. I don't even know who that is. She just sounds pretty. I'm sure that is. Julia Roberts. That's who it was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did get married. I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, like music is a crazy drug for people. It's like because people would always be like, "What?" And I'd be like, "Man, you ever heard his songs?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure he could, play at least a couple songs." And she was like, "Okay, I'm in."
Yeah. It's where you'd least expect it to happen sometimes. But then sometimes when you know what you're going for, then you're like, okay, this is what I was after.
Paulina Poroskova was married to Rick Ocasek from the Cars.
That's
right. She was a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I figured she was somebody. I mean, that with a name like that, I was like, well, yeah, sounds all right.
Gotta be pretty.
Yeah. No, I trust me. My wife is I outkicked my coverage. So the guitar is an incredible. There's there's funny memes, where you'll have like it's like guy without a guitar and like no girl, and you have a guitar, and then it's
Yeah, don't worry. We all outkicked our coverage here.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay, so he's a local guy. He's a community guy. This Patrick Davis, Joe. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
it
it's
is.
very rare that when you speak to an artist, they're speaking to the people as well. They're really engaged in.
I know. I gotta be careful. Patrick's gonna take my job.
No.
Work, man. It's just
I don't have enough. You got that. Y'all got a busy gig, man. You guys that is a lot of work, and I respect it. I do every now and then do like podcast things with my buddies, and they're fun. But man, I have utmost respect for this because this is hard. So yeah, no, I won't be.
Put it all on Barry. Barry does all the work. I just show up.
Okay,
and cause trouble.
Hey, we're all just talking, man. And we're talking about the Songwriters in Paradise, and I wonder what's next for Patrick Davis in this project, which I love. It's in like a bunch of different fantastic places. I'm interested in Napa Valley because that's the newest one that you've got. But what's next for Songwriters in Paradise? What are you going to do after?
Well, the newest one is actually Hillsburg. That's Napa was I think this will be our fifth year. Napa,
Hillsburg from Napa. I thought they were the same place. No.
Napa's down south.
Oh, yeah. What's interesting
is
what's interesting about it out there is that it's kind of like out in LA. Like someone will live in I don't know, Venice. Someone I don't know whatever the beaches are. You'll look on a map and you'll be like, oh, they're only like 8 miles apart, but it might as well be on the other side of fucking Mars, you know what I mean? Like, it's so far. I don't know if I can cuss. Sorry, I cuss like a sailor.
No, we'll bleep you out. It's fine.
Okay, good. But it's so far away, like because of traffic, all the things, it's just hard to get to. And that's essentially how it is out in wine country. Sonoma and Napa are right beside each other. Hillsburg is probably only 20 miles from St. Helena, where we do SIP Napa. But because of the mountain range, because of the windy roads, it's easily an hour drive. And honestly, nobody really goes over to the other side. You either go to Napa on vacation or you go to Sonoma on vacation because, everybody's wine drinking all day. And so like, they're not going to be able to drive over the mountain anyway.
Yep.
So, when I was going to Napa at first, a few years ago, I had been approached about, Hillsburg, and I balked at it because I was like, well, that seems crazy. It's so close. And then when I went out there for a number of years, I was like, oh, you guys are actually completely different worlds. This is just not the same at all. It's still incredible wine, incredible wineries, incredible food, everything, all of those things, are exactly the same. It even looks the same, but they're completely different worlds because of that mountain range in between them. And so a lot of the folks don't even, I'll be talking about somebody in Napa and I'll go, yeah, the guys over at Hillsburg, and these are famous people in Hillsburg, and they'll be like, I don't know who that is, because they do actually, they're separated enough to where they don't run in the same, necessarily the same, same groups. So Hillsburg is incredible. I say Hillsburg is like Mayberry in wine country. So it's like Rich Mayberry.
Rich Mayberry.
When you go out there, like you don't know what you're going to stumble upon, but it will be covered in grape and pleasant.
Yes, it's a wonderful place. And Hillsburg really is. We do, one thing that SIP does is, like I mentioned earlier, I never want these destinations, these paradises, to feel like we're poaching. So we always, we're not a charitable. I make money from it. It's not a 501c3, but I do have a 501c3. My little brother passed away about 15 years ago, drinking and driving, and we started a foundation around that. And so we actually do raise money at each one of the SIP events for a local community program. So we in Hillsburg, for example, we do the Humane Society there. We do the Boys and Girls Club. We do an education, Hillsburg Education Foundation. And so we've raised I think last year we did about 50 grand for that particular one.
Oh, wow, that's
Napa,
nice.
Yeah, in Napa this year we did 100 grand for the volunteer fire department, for the Boys and Girls Club there. Those organizations out there are so important, especially when you get into the you get out there to wine country, they've been fighting fires for a long time. Mm-hmm. The past few years, it's been really difficult. So, those guys need all the help they can get. The Humane Society, I'm a dog lover. So, little things like that, they add up, and so it might not be, millions of dollars every year, but SIP has actually done, over $2 million in the past decade. That's
amazing.
Our places. So yeah, so it's a good thing. So and once again, I always say the paradise is that there already stars of the show. We're just lucky to be there. So
right, exactly. Okay, so my wife and I might be going out to the Bahamas in February of 2024. Are you going to be out there? Can we meet up?
I don't think it's. I think we're going to be doing it. Now, where are you going to the Bahamas?
Oh, well, I don't know yet. We just got to go out. It's my father-in-law's 80th birthday coming up first week of February, so we're gonna go out there and say hi to him. And then we're gonna we might as well go to a warm weather destination. It's been a while since we've been out there to the Caribbean.
Well,
we've never been to the Bahamas,
Yeah, I'll give you some ideas on where to go if you hit me up. Hit me up off the air, and I'll tell you some places to go, and you can check it out. I think we're going to be back next year, but I'm not sure if it's going to be. There's a chance it might be in March, and also a chance it might be in November. We're trying to my schedule with the touring, with the SIPs that exist, with album schedules, with all the things going on, with bars. I'm trying I got to try to figure out when it's going to happen. But the Bahamas in February is actually pretty magical. It's we Hopetown is where we do SIP Hopetown. It's a beautiful place. But there's also there's Harbor Island. There's just the Exumas are one of the most gorgeous places, one of the more gorgeous places on earth. So you will not be disappointed wherever you end up.
Well, that sounds awesome. Well, I'm going to be sad. I was hoping to make it work, but I guess I'm just going to have to come up to Napa.
Well,
you know what? Actually, I'll go down to Cabo. How's that?
Yeah, Cabo in December. Cabo is pretty pretty phenomenal. That's right after Thanksgiving.
El Nino's coming, so it's going to be warmer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. That's fine. It's into November, so 80 degrees is about as warm as it gets down there. So we'll be all right.
Ooh-wee. Man, you exceed our expectations, Patrick Davis, without a doubt.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, thanks for talking to me.
So we'll play you this brand new song from Patrick Davis. It's coming out in July, so please don't rip it early.
Yeah.
Beautiful Day for Flying. Now, where'd you come up with this concept of this song? What's it all about?
Well, we've been talking about Songwriters in Paradise, and the connections. Those guys in Hopetown, where we do SIP Hopetown, Hurricane Dorian hit, basically wiped out that area of the world. Hopetown is this very, very tiny little island in the middle of the Bahamas, or at the top of the Bahamas, I guess. Like 1 mile wide and 7 miles long, I think. And if you would have watched this gigantic hurricane that was doing 200-mile-an-hour winds, if you would have watched it on the Weather Channel, the little spot where it was like, the eye's going to hit this little place, and it was Hopetown. It was devastating. It was terrible. We actually did a show. We put together a thing called SIP Hope for Hopetown at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, and raised a lot of money. And then we just did a lot of charity things. And I actually with two of my buddies, we flew down in February of 2020, right before the pandemic. We flew down to kind of do some cleanup and try to help them with just, went down there with the guitars and kind of hung out with the locals because we were in candlelight. I mean, it was an incredible experience. But on the way down, a fellow was fly us over, and he just looked at me and said, "It's a beautiful day for flying." And we songwriters, we have a tendency to listen very intently to folks' conversations and what they say, so that we can write those ideas down and then steal them. But that's kind of where we get a lot of ideas from that. And I just wrote it down. And me and my buddy Channing Wilson, who's an incredible artist, one of the SIP family members, and then my friend Wyatt Durrett, who has, I think, written 20 number one songs in the country world. He's another Songwriters in Paradise friend. We sat down, like I said, basically in candlelight, and we wrote "Beautiful Day for Flying" while we were in the Bahamas on that trip, trying to do a little, help cleaning up down there. And it was we set out to write a song, or I set out to write a song with those guys that was classic and sounded like something that could be the thing I want people to hear when they listen to "Beautiful Day for Flying" is I want them to go, "Oh my God, how did this song not already exist? How was this not something that was already, a Willie Nelson classic or a Frank Sinatra classic. I love singing it. I love playing it. It was actually played by Channing. He came to my wedding with my wife Lauren up in the mountains above Chattanooga, Tennessee, in October of this year, and he sang it at our wedding because it is a love song, and it's it's about falling in love and telling the woman or the man that you love that it's a beautiful day and it's because of them. So that's the idea.
Congratulations on the wedding. You are I'm still within the year, so happy marriage, honeymooners. Good for you.
Thank you very much.
I love that
very
so
lucky,
much.
very lucky. Yeah. So
Okay, now I'm gonna bring the dark clouds in, and dun dun dun.
okay.
Here's the question I ask every person that's on our podcast. And I don't know what you're going to say, man, but you did bring it up earlier. You brought up the idea of a battle earlier. You're like, anytime you're like fighting against elephants or something. I can't remember exactly that, but
Oh yeah, the gladiators.
yeah.
I feel like movies about gladiators.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. Would you rather, Patrick Davis, get to a battle to the death with one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? A battle to the death.
I would rather take on the one. Horse-sized duck, right?
Big
Horse-sized
duck.
Yes. One reason I'd say this is because I have seen a video of a giant hornet that kills a little bee, and then the rest of the bees are like, oh hell no. And they take the hornet down. And the hornet is literally 10 times the size of the small, or 20, 30 times the size of these bees. And they just, power in numbers, man. And I think that goes back to that community thing we talk about. Like it's,
power in numbers.
those guys, I would much rather try to outsmart one giant duck, horse-sized duck, than 100 of them. Because the odds are one of those little bastards is going to be really smart.
See, we've never had someone bring up the intelligence of the 100 duck-sized horses before. So you bring up a very valid point.
There's going to be a fast one, a strong one, a smart one. A few of them are going to be, most of them are going to be pretty stupid. So you're going to have a pretty easy time over. But if one of them says, all right, you can't stop us all, it can't be like a Quentin Tarantino movie where they all come up one at a time, but if one of them says, all right, let's go, well, then we're screwed.
Oh, yeah, this isn't Kill Bill where it's like, okay, that one's dead, so now I'll go and attack. And then, that one's dead. Okay, I'll go and attack. Yeah, exactly. So they'll just swarm you and you'll die.
Yeah, then it's over with. Yeah. So.
And you brought in community into the answer, too.
Well,
Man, Patrick Davis, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming on. Please come back every time you have a new sip.
Yeah.
Or anything you have going on, please. The door is wide open for Patrick.
Oh man, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Joe. Thank you guys so much, and I'm glad we got this all working. And I'll send you guys, get you guys some music, and hopefully you guys can, I don't know, we'll talk about Sip Cabo or one of those next. So and more new music. So much love, guys. Thank y'all so much.
That sounds great. Yeah, and everybody check out our show notes for links to all of Patrick's stuff. Make sure that you can get in and get your tickets for Sip in Healdsburg, or if you want, go down to Cabo. Sip Cabo sounds like a really, really fun time. And that is the weekend after Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic. Get on vacation, go get some good music.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to spend that week before the craziness of the holidays kicks in. So definitely Sip Hillsburg coming up in Sip Cabo. But also just stay in touch with me. I'll bring you good things, I promise.
Hey, I just looked out the window and guess what? It's a beautiful day for flying.
Wow. Yeah, that's well done. You go ahead and I just want this to be on every Southwest or American Airlines commercial soon, and then everything will be fine.
Right.
It's a beautiful day for flying. Not a cloud above, and the sun is smiling. Your love gets me high like a bird in the sky. It's a beautiful day for flying. I've always been afraid of heights, scared half to death of not a cloud above, and the sun is smiling. Your love gets me high like a bird